Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for your Commander-in-Chief of Abbotsford. A new way in politics, a new way to voice your opinion, and a new way to make sure justice is fulfilled. And we go back before our courts and jury and for the general public to see. Is not to stand on the street and protest, not to go into MLA's offices and MP's offices that are buddy systems and pals, is to go to their kids like I did to Henry Braun's son and find out all their dirty business of who they're working with and collaborating with to enrichinate themselves. Darren Braun opened the door that would send shockwaves in the political ring for the next 100 years to come. Anybody who has kids, the other competition's going to get in near them and find out what they can find out to scandal them to get out of office. Abbotsford residents and myself owe the Mission RCMP, men and women, a tremendous thanks for helping Abbotsford stand up and showing what Abbotsford's Community Police Department was doing for Adolf Hitler, Henry Braun, organizing threats, elections, and blocks, and used uniform to justify it and hide from the punishments of the laws and the wrath of the community. When I learned this all from Darren Braun and a little bit of help of the RCMP and Abbotsford residents so tied and knit together from the Dutch to the South Asians to the young Mennonites, I could walk through the door and not show a conspiracy, but make sure she's on the world stage to show she's got to go before the Supreme Court's assets got to be removed, and high elite Abbotsford police officers, like the Safety Standards Act, have to be kicked out and maybe face criminal charges of knowing what Olenoff did when he threatened with no investigations, and knowing that they were halting us and residents from coming in to like reports. It was basically blocking, you can see that. So I put it on the world stage so they can't tell the judge and jury we didn't know about it. The game just didn't stop. Mike Sir's attack on my South Asian councillor Mogel was one of the sickest things I ever saw when Henry called Mike to get it done, and I was right there. He said, I can't have that shitbox. Take them homeless and beat me. Henry didn't know if he was going to win or lose, and that's the unknown. And he figured the South Asians were that tied, Mo could do it. And Henry was losing respect in Abbotsford. He was being downturned in everything. So I want to begin today's podcast by saying, a lot of people say, Mr. Pelican, why don't you become police chief? Now, I made it clear, and I'll make it clear again. Abbotsford's well tied, and we get a lot of information, a lot of help, and I always ask the RCMP to help before I do anything. I never put anybody in danger, even them old homeowners we went in front of the city. I clarified it with Mission. They said, yeah, that's your right, protest. Your house has been damaged, and council will have an obligation to come out, and they're not coming out. That means the mayor's controlling them, and they're not doing reports, and they're not letting you speak before the auditorium. Don't block the doors, exits, and that, and be friendly. Well, Gertie Purdy screwed it up, and Henry, we were removed where we knew we would be safe because the police watch and the city watch. And Gertie Purdy screwed it up, and Henry came in his Lexus car, flew over me, sent me in the hospital, gouged me, smashed me up, sold his Lexus car, and was covered up by Mike Sir. And then, didn't even end there, Henry made sure Mike finished it off by making sure that when the RCMP said, we need you to run, and we need to flush it out. Pierre Poilievre said it the best at Clark Freightways to me. He said, the Mennonite mob, it's like this. Pierre explained it. You take a bag of honeybees and you throw a wasp, and you watch all the honeybees kill the wasp. The RCMP, I don't know today if they directly put me involved in it by saying, run, so it would flush them all to the top and show that Henry's ties to the newspaper blocking me. Vicky hopes my newspaper badge will help me. Shielding from the law. And Greg Toe's bribing. I'll run you in 4 years. Right now we got to help Ross. There's no chair for you. I'm blocking a democracy. Not knowing what was behind him. What do you want me to do? Greg, the RCMP are asking me to run to see if you're doing Henry's dirty work. You think I'm supposed to be that stupid? Nope. Dave Sadu at UFB, having UFB threaten and phone, thanks to the city workers. We had that audio taped, and we had it all in place with the RCMP, the threats, the 911. Andy Sadu saying my shithole son Dave Sadu did it. Why? Why did this take place on poor little old me and poor little old residents And why is poor little Ed Fast and poor little Mike DeYoung hit was organized crime? They stand to go to jail for the rest of their lives. They stand to be indicted and charged with one of the hardest sentences anywhere. The other political leaders have scattered because they don't know how much Henry's got tied to them, like the Jeffrey Epstein, you could see it. So they left Abbotsford all by itself to defend it. No help from the MPs or MLAs. And let me tell you, that didn't go on too far. John Rustad of the Conservatives was the first one there to see the legit and talk to all the witnesses. Then Gurpreet Rai of the NDP. And I made that clear. Terry Beach's office of the federal Liberals, and I'm a Conservative, because it was about human beings. Jyoti Sidhu was the Liberal MLA or MP for Missionette. Brad Viss was under Henry's thumb and Ed Fast's thumb. Brad is a family man, and he knew he should have came up here and he should have said, you know, as a father, it disgusts me they did that, and he couldn't do it. All of them in a bag together, defending and trying to do it. Now trying to rub shoulders with Suk Mangel. So I'm going to explain something. When I told you about the Beetlejuice movie and everything, I knew my experience from big developers and having big developers, and I made it clear. Peter Wall, a Wall Financial, I worked there, built the Wall Centers, the first ones by St. Paul's, the 50-story ones with a lot of people. Tony McGill of Intertech, Ledcorp. But above all, Mike Dakota Avani. Mike taught me so much when I did the North Shore Pier and everything, and I could find her fast. I could find every dollar that's unspared unfairly and everything, and Henry picked the wrong guy in the wrong time to do it. When Darren Braun became the Economic Development Officer, Henry's spy and dirty boy, to lift jobs and run them through, well, Henry stepped off trying to fool the public and put him in front of Ross. It was illegal. Even the city lawyer made it clear. The blocking of 3,000 people on Mackenzie Bog, but Henry figured as long as Vicky Hope didn't print it, there was nothing. But the Abbotsford police were Henry's #1 control to threaten and muscle. When Olenoff said, and he made the mistake of that Henry had lots of break-ins to drop a video in the lawsuit or he'll personally bury me, was that drugs or shovel? The RCMP man of mission never looked away then. She cranked down hard. Now the buddy system's got to go, and I bet you Watts is phoning everybody. Listen, guys, listen. There's so many undercover officers are going to lose their job. Oh, listen, we're supposed to be police forces and work together. Really? But this one, the RCMP cannot stand by, and neither can I. I made it clear when you asked me on Facebook and YouTube, why don't you become Commander-in-Chief of the RCMP? No. I will bring the RCMP in the best there is to make sure she's done, and make sure forensic audits go in there, and make sure we go after Mike Sir and we clamp down, because that way they got to cut a deal with the Crown in order to save a lessened sentence and tell who it is. That's why they come to me. I'll tell you what he's doing. Don't run my name on videos. You attacked families. You took this political thing called politics, and you didn't attack politicians, and you didn't go after them, because you were all working together. You attacked residents, families, and innocent people and put them in harm's way to unload yourself. And then we're going to build yourself a little police force to run a dictatorship. And thanks, Henry had all the corners tied up but his own son. And with that information, I could bring them all in. Bill Vanderzam, John Rustad, and everybody in the back door, and nobody knew they were here. I'm down on Valley Road. And I did a video the other day showing you it was for sale, that I originally knew by Darren Braun. They were going to drain the swamp. I didn't tell you what was coming. I wanted it to play out slowly. And then they panicked and put it for sale because the deal was off the table and draining it. Probably going to flood it onto somebody. It's like a sponge. It holds lots of water. It's very important to the frogs, to the fish, so you can never develop it. And dirty water's in it and everything. So what was going to take place? Henry Brown's dad and him were train tycoons, and they were the worst. They're the worst in the business, train tycoons. They know no morals and no respect. It's about them and what they can get. When Henry first became mayor, and hangs on my wall, is Henry's plan to bring SkyTrain down the highway and bring it into Abbotsford and everywhere, because his companies and him had ties increasing millions of dollars. And when I made it known to Horgan and them took it off the table because they said that bugger's going to get rich and probably leave me out. Understand this. We're faced with this, and then knowing this. Henry Brown is like Jeffrey Epstein. He's got enough on everybody that he can hold them, and you can see him trying to escape. Pierre Poilievre won't come here. David Eby won't come here because Henry's ties to Pam, and I'll touch on that, and everybody. So they're just trying to get away and figure, because Henry's like this, I'm going to go. I'm going to tell what you do. You got to defend me. And that's how Henry worked. And we knew that. So now the sign is taken down, and they fled from here. Not sold, fled, because they were going to pawn this. This train tycoon was going to do this. Remember the movie Beetlejuice? I told you to go watch it, the little city uptown. Every developer's got to build a miniature models and show you what they're going to do and how the high-rises are going to affect lights in buildings. Henry knew the official community plan. He was working a deal, and Darren Braun made it clear, and I needed to hear it from Pam's mouth, to bring the West Coast here. Let me paint you the picture. A lovely glass building, a nice walkway through the other parts here, and the trains, and you can sit, you can have coffee, you can get on the bus that I plotted down here quickly, get to the airports and everything. Filling him in his friend's pockets in millions of dollars. Pam confirmed that she was working on that proposal and nobody was supposed to do it, like the red line. Now it's blocked. They won't get it, so they got to sell it. That meant the West Coast would hook here and then go to Chilliwack. I'm all for it. I made it clear I'm all for it, but nothing to do with Henry or his friends or developers. We will make sure we do research so good that it's done. We might expropriate to bring it in. That's what we might do, expropriate to get it in for the, because it's such a commodity that Abbotsford needs it, right, Henry? So we'll expropriate. No values to Henry or nothing. We're going to show you why you don't go into organized crime. Now it would push you from here. Let me guess where it's got to go. Right there in Braun? By Ross Siemens' gas station in the Spurs there. That means Ross would stand to get hundreds of millions of dollars. And bring it there and then build a little light rail to Chilliwack. We're not going to let this happen, right, Henry? The train tycoon's not going to get through. So I don't want my police chief to waste time today to come out there and go, oh, that bloody thing's obvious. Because the leads out of the city called me immediately, and I wanted to come down here and show guiltiness. Sneak in again at 11:45 and take the signs down. Because now get them out of there. Get them out of there. Get them out of there. Get them gone. We can't do that. That's a swamp. Oh, get them out of there. I knew all along the West Coast was coming. That's why I told you. This mob set up for the official community plan. This mob was ringing and loading elections, and a businessman needs to hold something for 5 to 10 years before it comes back to him and he gains. This mob set up to load the Chamber of Commerce great tolls, and I knew it was wrong to block and threaten. This is why nobody could get in or win. This is why it was it didn't matter. You had to go to Henry and get clearance to run, or you were scandaled, or you were jammed or threatened. We don't need an Abbotsford police building anymore. We need the RCMP to uphold law, bring down the hammer, and run roughshod in our town and control our town and get the crime cleaned up. Because it was about the Abbotsford police. We're about elections. We're about themselves. We're about Henry Braun. This is why I took to the world YouTube. And I want to make one thing clear, ladies and gentlemen. Abbotsford residents and people that are on the EDA board of Superman Guilds that have their homes, or some of Ed Fast's long-time friends, always took the advice of the RCMP, even though Ed figured I got him fooled. And made sure that when you went to Ed, that Ed was calling Henry, because Henry was calling the shots. I want to make something clear to everybody. I didn't do this for views. I didn't do this to become your mayor. I didn't have a plan for this. I did this because people's lives were threatened. I was targeted. I was left for dead by my police force. I was threatened by my police force, failing to come out. A man in uniform figured I'm protected because I work for the law. I'll never get fired. I'm a chief. I'm an investigator, and I'm this. I'm going to tell you, you're full of bullshit. When Keelan Olenoff threatened, the RCMP knew right now the Safety Standards Act in the Abbotsford Police should be all over your videos, making them comments with them many witnesses and interviewing everybody and ripping Olenoff's ass apart. When Gertie Purdy did what he did, that safety standards was supposed to. When the Abbotsford Police smashed my phone, my son bought me for Father's Day and my camera and made threats that he was going to jail me. I was in Abbotsford disturbing the peace. Never do I do videos in front of audience or bring people on stage that Henry can threaten. That's why I stand alone, because Henry phones and threatens him like he did Marion Mosca there. So I stand alone thanks to the RCMP. That officer should have went under the Police Complaints Commission or the RCMP now. And Colin Watts should have went with me to White Rock to the multi-billionaire and stripped that officer of everything he had and gone through all his files. It ain't. They're jacking each other. You haul me, I'll tell on you. You tell on me, I'll tell on you. And Colin Watts, I'll tell you again. You need to resign and go back and take the job of George Clooney and get off Alex Mitchell's lap. What happened to the homeless? I made sure that I even went on my best friend, my very good friend that I worked my ass off with Abbotsford residents, my gas, my time, everything, to make sure that this man would take out Mike DeYoung and wipe the establishment, Suk Mengele, and I will not even stand by him for what he was trying to do, prop you up through Ross Siemens. I'm live. Valley Road, to the train tycoon. I want to make something clear, Henry. Nobody takes the law in their hands. Nobody's above the law. Nobody pulls favors. Nobody gets away with all this. You got to go before our courts and our justice system. And that is what I'm aiming at. I begin this journey with Abbotsford and I'll end it by telling you this. Abbotsford residents and myself want the full weight of the law. And that is why I knew forensic audits would open up the official community plan on the train tycoon, Ed Fast, Mike DeYoung, and everybody that was involved. I'm live, Abbotsford, British Columbia, Valley Road.